Greetings. Thank you each for joining us. I'm very grateful today to be joined by world-renowned, fantastic channel, Ivan Teller. How are you doing, sir?
Well, I'm good. Thanks. Glad
Very,
to be here.
yeah, I'm very pleased for your reception. Thank you for being so open to join and to share your energy with us today.
Sure. Definitely glad to be here. And just, it's a strange month, as you know. So yeah.
Yeah, we're in like one of the more occult times of the year with the eclipses. And so the veil is very thin, huh?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this month is not defined, it feels like. I don't know if it knows what it wants to do or what it is. So who knows?
This leads me to the kind of question I would like to ask you, first of all, then. So, with regards to Saturn, having moved through Capricorn in 2017 to 2020, and then meeting with Jupiter for the first time in 800 years in Aquarius, to start the air trigons. They'll be meeting every 20 years for the next 200 years in just air signs. So it's a different paradigm entirely with regards to that. And so we're seeing that also in context, Saturn is here, Capricorn's here, and the second house of Capricorn is where Saturn is now, which is Aquarius, which Saturn also rules. So it's giving support to the identification of this template, which is under refashion. And so all templates are under redetermination, like our awareness of what the body can do, our awareness of what cosmology we are working with, our awareness of what sound, vibration, and frequency is. And all of these types of things, even just music, sometimes we've just been so ignorant to these things and seen them on a bass line or something like this, rather than actually getting into the depth and breadth of them all.
Yeah, it's
kind of renormalizing normal is not a lie. It's really quite true, except for we're the advocates if we take that Saturnian backburn role. And so I would like to ask you, first of all, if one was to zoom out with as much expanse as possible, maybe even to a timeless observation, is that a space which you channel from? Is this something which we can all fathom? Is this a technique of awareness about what the human body truly is like?
Yeah, that's where I can connect to an outsider's perspective of outside the human perspective. So I mean, we incarnate here just as you know, just whatever our souls are attracted to, you can say, attracted to this and that, and when you're done with all of that, then you start ascending into a higher, for you don't need this reality as much as you did before. So that's what we're going more into. Those that want to are going more to an outsider's perspective, you can say, if that makes sense.
And so the kind of graduation from that is a very stiff test of going beyond what has been set as traditions, because it's those traditions which often keep us stuck.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you're stuck because you want to be stuck, but you might not be aware of it. I guess you get a contract too, so you're contracted to be in a certain place at a certain time. So if you get married or you have a job, you can create a contract there. Sometimes you can't break them as much as you like to. So you can ascend with that contract, but you're still stuck with the contract.
So it's just, so even like just the nature of a contraction is a squeeze on our sphere of influence. It's not being our whole self.
Yeah, exactly.
So who would want to play that kind of game? I guess the benefit in division is that it's mathematical formula to then multiply.
Yeah.
So it broadens our awareness to contract ourselves. That's why we come back to the central space as centaurs.
Yeah. Well, some of us come back here to awaken others. So, but you still have to go through the human retrospect is a word that comes, however you want to word it, but you got to come here and be human, do this role again, all the human stuff, so then you can go back to the astral very
Could you
more
say
spiritual.
you got to get out to get in? So in a sense, the people say if we would say in the spiritual community are they're asleep or they're ignorant, whoever we're jeering at or focusing on. Actually, they have got such a heavy karmic bill of emotional debt that it's scary to awaken to their power. And in fact, they're teaching us.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, many that are not aware of all this are pretty smart in a lot of ways. Sometimes they just know things. Like sometimes they just know who's going to be president. So the rest of us are like, well, we can't figure that out, but you figure it out in 5 seconds. So it's like, so they can do stuff, but they're still part of the reality, and most of us have disconnected from it. But especially when you disconnect from this reality, you see all different realities, and you can't keep track of anything anymore.
So this is the crazy thing, that actually the slow growth in ignorance down here as we're awakening is so necessary, because when you start blooming, it's like, I've just lost myself over here. I've just lost myself over. I'd have to go retrace my steps back to this central place. It's like a dark night of the soul or something like that.
Yeah, some do feel like they're awakened and they're better than other people and all that. That's something they have to figure out for themselves, heal the ego. So they're going on an ego trip for a while.
A bit like Bill Gates kind of thing. It's like a megalomania kind of scenario. Those types of groups of people. It's a slippery slope once you realize your power.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, many feel like they're awakened, and then like I said, they're over other people. But they realize that those aren't awakened to the spiritual growth, still have a lot of knowledge, and it's a little bit difficult for some to accept that.
So would you suggest that in, for instance, our natal chart, it's a bit like in the Monopoly board, where we obtain certain places like Mayfair or Piccadilly or these different places on the Monopoly board. And so that's maybe where we have our Venus or our Mars. So that's where we kind of have consciousness. Or maybe it's actually an unconscious part, which we're awakening more to through working with it in our life. And so there's like a different coordinate, if we're talking Star Trek analogies, like Deep Space Nine. If we put in a different year space within time, then that actually gives us the energy which we most need to work on, and eventually we master and raise the frequency of that. So yourself as a channel, you can dial in on these different frequencies and coordinates.
Yeah, from different perspectives. I can see from different people's perspectives. So it doesn't mean that one perspective is the right one, but it can be. But I can say it can take devil's advocate also. So, which some channels don't do, I don't think. So I'm gonna just take, whatever we say is set in stone. That's great, everything. But what if you're wrong? So it's like whatever works for you.
Yeah, it's good to see the both sides, I feel, because these obviously it shows that it depends on the temperament of who's looking at it, I guess.
Yeah.
And it changes from day to day, the different shades or moment to moment.
Yeah, it's like, do we need disclosure? Are people ready for disclosure? I mean, there's back and forth on that, yes and no. I mean, has it happened for us to really know if that's true or not? So
I suppose maybe it happens in some timelines, but there's some timelines which are set for everybody. Would you agree? Is this the case?
Yeah, definitely.
So when we talk about certain people, for instance, like we look at people like Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, who is an idol. I mean, Taurus, which he's the Brahma bull, and he's also got the Uranus on his ascendant. He's the most electrifying man in sports of entertainment. But he was the chosen one in a sense, I feel like, because he's from a Samoan heritage, not just to be obviously a world famous actor or wrestler, but to maybe potentially be this influence of what will become maybe a president or something of that ilk. Would you say these things are set before he became a wrestler? Like he was chosen. Do you feel that this is the case?
Yes, but he has to put effort into it. So he could have changed it. There's a lot of people that can sabotage themselves from celebrity, but yes, you can allow it. So you can get, many chances. Like like the celebrity doorway is open. Do you want to open up that door, or you want to pull back, which is okay? Here's another door. There's many opportunities. It's not going to just be one door and you just miss one opportunity. It's going to be several. And if you say yes to, you get used to it. Yes, definitely. So it obviously.
Do you feel like when you got offered a door, you're always even aware that you're being offered one? Because you could be just offered, for instance, hey, do you want to collaborate with me on this book? Or do you want to write this album with me? And yet you just really always wanted to write that book or album. So you just be like, yeah. And so you get caught in the moment and you don't realize what you said yes to. Do you feel that this is what happens to a lot of people? Or is there always this opportunity of discernment?
That's true. There are situations where, you just walk into the wrong door at the first sign of it. And there's that too. There's lessons to be learned there, of course. So like bad relationships and all that all has a purpose. Obviously, a bad relationship can take you to not a good place, but apparently you needed to go through that to, the reason why you chose it. So
there's so many different levels to the tests in this reality. Yes. You could say fame is one, like prison is one, the court of law, and relationships, but the mechanic of all of these things are all the same: emotional debt, world of commerce.
Yeah, right now we're being tested, even we don't even realize it. You're ready to ascend, or you're ready to go to the next level or help more people, but work with what you have. I know people want to always move forward and have more fame, which is nothing wrong with that. But what is it that's happening currently? Of course, be thankful for what you have, which is not always easy for some people to do. They forget. So,
the more and more that you practice doing the things that we enjoy, the more that we can fill our time with those things which we love and bring us into the fabrication of that kind of frequency, it's easier to manifest, I feel. And so, but that's a real tough practice, because we still always wake up with the heaviness, because it's bottomless pit, it's hell.
It depends on what. Well, like when you do spiritual work, it's different for everybody, individuals that do it, because some can have like a relationship and normalcy. Others are you just do the work and that's it. You're like a priest. You're married to the job. Probably there's some karmic reasons. Almost like living like a monk, which I feel like that way half the time. But sometimes that's it's about the work. It's not always about you, obviously. So it gets really
out of the way.
It's a lot to take
in. For a devotion, you have to get out of the way. Sometimes the devotion can be just doing 20 press-ups in the morning and the evening, or doing your Spanish from Duolingo. This is what I'm kind of currently doing. Or they can be bigger things which have become so easy because you've applied yourself so many times that it's just a joy and a play, as you say.
Yeah, well, you're always doing Spanish, but because of your location, right? That's all to do with it, right? You pretty much have no choice.
But with the daily YouTube videos, that comes easy. It's the more like the press ups and the Spanish learning, which is more of a well, that's the thing that I'm really having to do,
Well, think of it as something you always wanted to do, but never got around to doing it. And now you are.
Exactly. It's funny which we get prompted into, and then the things that we avoid the least can often be our greatest gifts to share with ourselves and the world.
Yeah. I mean, are you by the water now? Are you closer to the water now, or no?
Oh, very close. I cycle to the beach, which takes about half an hour. Get there soaked because it's so hot.
That's okay. But that makes sense, because what you're doing, and in a different side of the world as you were before. Last time we talked, I think there's a couple of talks back where you were on the other side of the world, right? Or something like that.
Yeah, so, different energy in the UK, much more for me. You're Saturnian, more of a gosh, you've got to conform to something which isn't your spiritual self.
Yeah, that's like reptilian central. Of course, where you are now, it's a little bit the same, but it's different. The reptilian's at the beach, though. It's a little bit lighter.
It is crazy here, and so there's the eclipse today. I just keep myself to myself today and do cool things that I enjoy. I did do the yoga and stuff like that. But it's all a process. I think that when you go to new places, it broadens your horizons, and there's a level of ignorance which can be bliss as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, like you said, like you do all this astrology, and yeah, it's you're seeing the blueprint of how, I mean, you're seeing a version of it. You're seeing, you see predictions. I think you do predictions too, right? You see some of that coming.
I give bandwidth. So
Yeah.
what I will do is I say that it depends. It's what you choose to do with the energy. As you say, it's like how you choose to utilize it. Like you've got the opportunity to talk to a psychic on a Scorpio full moon lunar eclipse, and that's what you choose to do, and you make the most of it. And so that's like coming into alignment with it. Another way to do it would be to isolate, or something like, or to not show up and do that, And so
you still have a choice, but sometimes you don't always have a choice. Sometimes
sometimes you feel like that's the case. You get taught very well as well by other people. I find that you don't always know the heritage of who's sharing or teaching with you. You could so it's good to be kind of more open, but we're so trained not to be open.
Well, we come into this world kind of like with a blindfold on. We see everything, and then we incarnate, and it's all erased a little bit. Maybe not for everybody, but for the most part, it's shut off. Sometimes for the better. Sometimes when remember too much. Some people are that are doing psychic work, metaphysical work. They're going to stay open. You can't shut those people down who have depended on it. But some are here to. It's a lot of times better just to be shut off if you don't remember, so you can be the human, but then have an activation. But what you're seeing in the chart, you're pretty much seeing what they see before they come here. At least our version of it to a certain level. So that's pretty. It's different. It's pretty interesting. So
it's interesting how we set the stage, but then we have to play the starring role within it too.
Yeah, we're the star of the movie, that's for sure. We're watched by everybody, at least those around us.
That would be very interesting to reflect upon, because I would like to there's a few things that I would like to discuss with regards to this metaphysics which we've been moving through. And so the people watching, would you suggest that in this contained matrix or environment, which is vast and broad and wide and deep, that actually I used that Monopoly analogy earlier. These people watching us is us, and in a sense on a very zoomed out level, but they've got different investments. So a bit like we're all corporations and like Big Brother characters and a TV show kind of thing, or an X Factor. And so different corporations, different entities, different broader spirits who we truly are have got like stakes, gambling stakes, investments on what we're going to do, what we're going to choose.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a wild west. Yeah, because the guides around us want to see what, you can say it's every day is a test, you could say, but to see what we do, we can become more patient or more impatient at all. We always want more, usually. Because we can kind of see the future. You might be 10 years off, though. We always want to speed things up so we can get what we want. That's part of human nature, always want to evolve, at least for some people. Others just want material possessions. But yeah, you have your guides around you. I think also important for people to realize their guides that aren't always helpful as you evolve. You can see like you're teaching a lot of them.
So this guides is actually we're ourself, and it's a part of the division. Mm-hmm. I want to phrase it and I could be coming back to it. So like, I feel that if we are creation and we're centaurs, and we start here, and as we were saying, in this very fertile part of the center of creation, then actually creation is already completed and finished. Because at the farthest length and breadth, there's the Dark Lord of the reality, in a sense, that actually exploded it and killed the reality, and then time froze. And that's who we are. We broke the reality. And that Lord of Darkness is a prisoner of war, and it's actually the Daemon in our head.
Yeah.
And that is the conversation which we share, but we're not here to be scared. We're here to marry in and to actually guide it through the eyes of love, because it's dear and sweet. It's it's rich.
Yeah, well, it's like you're like for like our current lives, we might have already lived this before in some other scenario somewhere, but in this life, wow, look, you did something different this time. Oh, look, you're doing that differently. So there's some of that going on too. So,
and this is a very shifty moment, and because we've just had, as we said, this pile up of Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter and Capricorn, so there's this lucidity of templates, especially as we move through this eclipse season in Scorpio. This only happens like every 9 years, and every 18 years with the South Node, for us to move through the occult sign with an eclipse, which are occult in the first place. And so the depth of like discovering some of the things like cannibalism, human trafficking, all of these different things, and how actually this is all part of what is has always been the human nature, and we're kind of discovering the polarity of these things, and even the jurisdiction of how we judge and condemn ourselves as victims for even knowing or being a part of even having it in our awareness.
Yeah, definitely. It's well, I feel like we're kind of, as you're saying that, I feel like we kind of stop to get gas, where you slow down to fuel up for what direction we're about to go into. Like a timeline is on its way of moving us into a different direction.
Well, thank goodness, in a sense, because as you say, it's like a speed bump. We had the lovely lockdowns, which was a permission slip granted to us by our, in a sense, by our deepest selves. So that we could then adorn ourselves with interests, hobbies, crafts, skill sets, which ground us into the practical enjoyment of our day-to-day lives.
Yeah, it's a reset for sure. We're kind of going through the financial reset, at least in some form, maybe not a huge one, but a form of it.
Would you say it's like there's ripples that we're moving through of these different as you say, resets, and each of them are like a flood of consciousness. Through the contraction as there another expansion, and like through the levels of ignorance becomes more clarity.
Yeah, I feel like those that wanted to have a move, this might be the time for it for some people, maybe not everyone, that are ready for a life change. I feel like we're in that transition right now, like exactly what you're talking about. So it's in the
this particular eclipse, just to mention it in brief, obviously we're moving beyond it as every day is so fast and vast, but it has a square from Saturn to the nodal axis of the moon. And whenever you have a chart or birth chart with anything square the nodal axis of the moon, that's a necessity thing which you must karmically show up to evolve the soul. And so Saturn is the step, and it's to alleviate the shadow from Scorpio, empowering ourselves to the gold, which is always more shadow. There's always more. It's even more rich once you get into doing it. Anyway, the Saturnian role is just simply discipline. So it's about consistency and showing up. And over the course of the next 5 months or 6 months to the next eclipses, we can remove some of our biggest obstacles that maybe we've had all our lives.
Yeah. Well, purging what you don't need. The corporations are going through that right now. The ones that are not doing so well. And then, like Saturn's, like the den mother, with the walking with the stick, to hit your hand or something like that. So there's like, do this, do what as I say, something like that. There's, Saturn's very strict energy, as you probably know.
That's like the old crone wisdom.
That's what it feels like,
it's in Aquarius, it's our genealogy, because it's beyond the bound of time's restriction. So we can find that we get a lot more done in a small amount of time that we don't have to come back and redo once Saturn moves out of this space in a year's time.
Good. Well, I felt Saturn is a part of this journey, as you know, through what you're seeing in the charts. We made this decision to get into this situation, to forget and everything. So Saturn's making sure that we do what we signed up for. No matter what we go through, it's like, it's tough. You have to go through all this. It's like, just just the way it is. So
really, all of these corporations and even people who are trying to enforce restrictions, like the different idols of our time, like whether it's Steve Jobs, obviously he's passed, but like with the different like people who are like going to talk about going to Mars, that are Elon Musk and all of these different people, right? The innovators, if you will, of our time, they are really schooling us and showing how we can become great creators. Even the likes of like the Jim Hensons, the Jim Careys. I mean, there isn't a Jim who doesn't do it, because they're all kind of tricksters. So we're learning how to be magicians, and we're learning how to come into our power from these people if we're paying attention to them.
yes, yeah, you can speed things up if you're. It all depends. Yeah, connect to your magic. Yeah, it's all magic in the long run, but it's just doing what you feel like you need to accomplish, and
And
magic
so
will find itself to you. Yeah.
there's a virtue in time. It airs out every single layer that we need to. It's an aromatic herb, time, THYME. And so the deity manifest, the daemon, which is being schooled through the lights of illusion because it's pure darkness, scared of self and self-power.
Mm-hmm.
But coming into greater awareness through these different simple rigmaroles, like having to string a guitar, like having to learn the Spanish, like having to learn to get up in the morning and to function, to make thumbnails for YouTube videos and things like this. And the patience that it takes, that's like very beneficial. So would you suggest that building a relationship with our daemon actually gives us the gifts of our own power rather than to be scared, because it's actually the bully inside of our heads as well?
Well, yeah, embrace the demonic, the darkness.
The monarch. I love your language.
Yeah, it can get demonic. Everybody has a lot of darks, but yeah, if you're not afraid of it, so many people are afraid of it. Like embrace your darkness. You need to get mad. Some people feel like that's low vibration, but it's part of you. So explore yourself, not be ashamed of it. It's just because somebody want to do this high vibration energy, but darkness will find its way through you eventually. You'll snap. You'll have a psychotic episode or something. It'll find its way. Or those that find too much darkness eventually find light. Or those that are very male, masculine, and then they find a feminine, then they want to change their gender altogether. It's just like, yeah, I'm just going to bring a feminine energy in. So obviously that's extreme, but
This is like the funny thing is, like, at the depth of it, it's recognizing that we get stuck and we're working through different stories, but our greatest nature is to change.
Change, embrace change. Change is obviously, you don't want to change things too much, but change is good for sure. Yeah, we're forced to change, as you can see. I mean, in our daily lives, always on a grand scale, nothing really stays the same. If that was the case, we wouldn't have the internet right now. It would be, I think humans are forced to change. That's why these world wars happen, to just clear out the people that didn't want to change. It's hard for some people to believe that, but I mean, look how different we are. World War II, everything is so much different than what it was before, the 1920s and all that. So,
yeah, I mean, it's funny. We were seeing people unravel before our very own eyes, or even get more uptight before our very own eyes. It's like string that's round around us.
Yeah, well, this world is designed to evolve. There are other worlds. You can probably go to the 1920s and probably live there forever. You probably evolve a little bit, but this world, it has different teachings. It just like come in, get out, come in, get out. It's kicking everybody. It's like incarnate, do what you got to do, and then you leave. It's like we're not playing. You can't be here for 1,000 years, not yet. You can try, but that's not.
When we say that we have to, in the expanse of time, we say that we destroyed it, in a sense that somewhere in between now and the end, there was also like the grey race coming into being, which is us in the future. And the timeline that I'm aware is that they manifested back before our time, because we're like hybrid babies, where they're kind of using our DNA to bring consciousness to the future so that we don't destroy it so much. So that's benevolent in a sense.
Yeah. That's true. I don't think about that type of future. You just think about the current timeline. But yeah, definitely. Yeah, there has to be an end eventually. And at least that's one timeline that we're connected to. It's a possible timeline. So
even if it was in a sense light years in the future, like it's in a sense time stops being considered the way that we consider it now in the not too distant future from now anyway.
Well, there can be, I don't think about it too much, but that's a good point, that we go into like this more new earth paradise reality, but then what? Then you start losing everything, right? And you turn into a gray race or something like that, which is possible.
I feel that we start to trade on different values of currency, like the value of emotion, the value of the weight of our experience, like the quantity of how much do you feel this guitar lesson is in compared to this driving lesson or this lift from Timbuktu to there or there?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you're remembering your future self a lot, where you had to come, like you say, destroy the future or stop it, and then come back here to dig in some more reality. So
maybe you can channel my in a moment, channel my future self for intrigue. But I've got one more question about this place, which is pretty dark and sinister, which I want to get into.
Sure.
So we've explored similar things before. I just want to kind of like go for these overviews where we've got this opportunity as well. So the North Pole used to be Helsinki in Finland, and I feel like the Garden of Eden story phenomena that is about the nature of the Maya, this earth, and our sphere of influence, and as the offspring of the atmospherics, the star seeds here, buried in the atmospherics as we are in the darkness. So really, this is a dressed up hell, which is okay, because we realize that we're the caretakers, the gardeners, the janitors of the place, in a sense. We light the place up. And
definitely.
Everything in the physical world, anything that stems out into the spiritual, comes from this density. There's no other place to manifest into, to incarnate into. So there's no need for those delusions or of wanting to manifest onto Mars or go flying through space. I feel like this is the place to be. And when we anchor ourselves and learn how to be a master builder, which we're shown, then we're really coming into our true empowerment. And that's ascending beyond a roadblock. That's ascending into our self-empowerment as creative beings.
Well, even, you got to give me the idea of, okay, live this life out. But what if you want to reincarnate, but reincarnate in the past, somewhere else where you're changing this current reality currently? So, it's always, you can never really remember the past. We just go by what's written in the history books, but, you can easily change that too. So
I saw a great meme the other day. It said fracture the fractal. And so that's exactly what we're doing in a sense. We're energy shifters, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I feel like a lot of beings still haven't been to this world yet. We're making it easier for other beings to incarnate here too, because they're going to keep coming no matter what. Some beings want nothing to do with this world. They feel they can't handle it, but it feels like there's a lot of beings that need this reality. They need to go through all these hardships. They're not used, they need to experience either their dark side or whatever it might be. So because I feel like this world was created because the higher dimensions just kept on other realities, just couldn't get their act together. It's like, hey, you can't handle this high energy. You go back to the basics. You go back to be a caveman because you can't figure out what, you can't respect what you have, So I think that's why this world's still here.
Because we're rediscovering ourselves beneath the surface level.
Yeah, you go back to the basics. You go live in a cave somewhere, or you get up and you get dressed and all that stuff. Because before, a lot of beings don't have to get dressed and all. They just wake up and they're all ready to go, and you just go zoom off to do whatever. But if you can't get that right, or you're not treating people well, or whatever it might be, you get sent here. Or
another word for a garden is a nursery, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. You can see that. Well, you see the sports, and there's nothing wrong with sports, but some get so it's like adult children. You can tell with that. So
they call them like infants, don't they? Like, but like that sounds a lot like infinity as well, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in the higher dimensions, you are. Well, it depends on who you are. You can be very childlike too. It's like, well, like you might be trillions of years old, but you're still act like you're a 4-year-old. Not to insult that, but
In a sense, that's the savior, isn't it, of bringing consciousness to heavier areas. It's like being able to weave the tapestry and tell the story. That's the most empowering thing about it, is that if we can recognize that we're the greatest storyteller, then we can really work miracles.
Well, a lot of us, that are in this awakened state, probably the ones that built a lot of these, why this world is the way it is. We probably made it, very restrictive for a reason. It's like, don't let these restrictions off. We still haven't figured it out yet until we've proven that we don't need these tests anymore.
So when we see the monkeys and they're just going, this is really what we're still just doing now. It's just getting these different tacks off, getting these different layers or limitations.
It's true. It's but that's the thing. If say like you learned all of this though, okay, to a certain level, you're at a higher frequency. You can start to forget too. And then you gotta come back to square one, be a caveman again or whatever it might be. So, it just, Would the world like this ever go away? This world might come to an end one day. You just ran through the cycle. We'll go somewhere else. We'll take all of this, what's here, and move it somewhere else. Whatever, reinvent Mars, whatever.
So, who knows? Would you say that this actual human suit is, because it's a frequency suit and it's got the chakras, which is like the scale or the major scale and the minor scale, all of these different things. It's like we are able to obtain all these different frequencies if we can unlock our stuckness in them, which means we can navigate all of space and time a bit like the Borg would, if you will, in this hypercube.
As long as you go to a goal that you want to make, you don't lose your humanity, you can say. Connect to the higher dimension knowledge and have some sympathy, because a lot of beings have lost their sympathy at a higher realm. They just don't care about us little people that are here. So
I'm going to ask if you're able to tune into a couple of particular astrological things that are going on this year for a few minutes, if that's all right. Firstly, obviously, today we moving through this eclipse. The viewers may be watching this a few days later. So this is going to, no doubt, in the collective reveal a change of face in how we've seen things hidden from us in power structures, with Pluto ruling Scorpio, now retrograde in Capricorn. So governments, Hollywood, all of the things that we've been seeing coming out with, like the Johnny Depp and different things like that, and the human trafficking. So what do you feel like is coming through with this energy, and how do you think that's going to broaden through the summer as we move towards the next eclipse season of 6 months from now?
Well, this does remind me, I feel like this has been going on for a while, but notice how we've been kind of going back. It feels like our society's been pulled backwards, like to the 70s, like the gas prices, maybe not everything is 70s. We have the president, Biden, it's kind of like a Jimmy Carter. We've been kind of pulled, it's like either we haven't learned our lessons from that time, or we're just being forced to go backwards. It's not entirely clear. But a lot of that's happened. I guess when people start realizing we're going backwards, at least in some, because they're remaking all these shows and stuff like that. It's like either they're just something they don't want us to see in the future, they don't want us to evolve to a certain level. They're going to keep scaling us backwards until the collective starts realizing it. Some of us are realizing it, but the rest of them not. It's very, they kind of, it's like the world adjusted. People just go with it for some reason. But for the next, I feel like we're still going to go through some backtracking, but there's a main timeline, a new one that's being put together that has not time for it to show itself yet.
So in the sense that there's a backtrack energy as well, because all the planets are starting to go retrograde. Soon Saturn will go retrograde, Mercury and Pluto are currently. But Mars is also going to go retrograde after having met with Uranus and the North Node. So there's certainly a very big shift that's going to be taking place. I can even give you the date on it. And it's like something which we've had our eye on. And it could be like, because it's Uranus is inventions and it's the future, and Mars is like action and things. It's
That's
like
good.
it's and the North Node, it could be very advanced, but at the same time it could be a distraction. I don't know, like the internet cut out, it could be a resource crisis, but it could be a very like the metaverse, something profound. They could even do the fake alien stuff. I don't know. I would like to hear what you might think is going to be going on and feel into, and I'll tell you the month going on.
Well, when you post this thing, they're doing that fake, the fake alien Congress, the fake Congress is talking about the fake aliens. So
Are they like this coming
this week coming up? I don't know what day it is, but our sellout government is going to be talking about aliens. So that'd be interesting to see what
that is
they're going to talk about the Tic Tacs, and I don't know if anything's going to come of it, but you never know. Something could come in and change our reality.
August is this conjunction, by the way, this triple conjunction in Taurus.
Interesting. So I felt around September is when we'll see some kind of resolution to all this. So right now we're going to go through some chaos timelines due to Saturn. Saturn and a couple others. I forgot what they were already, but we're going to go through a little bit more chaos as we're already going through right now. I don't know about the internet situation. It's hard to say. I mean,
there's going to be a lot of advance in ourselves because Jupiter,
exactly,
Aries, all these missions, even if they're just simple, cool things like bringing out painting, fishing, whatever people choose.
Yeah, this is like the next couple of months of inner development for sure. Yeah, I don't know about on a world scale where that's going, but obviously they're going to make things easy. Yeah, a life change, a job change. Of course, that's always happening, but it might be more than usual.
There is a Mars Jupiter conjunction, which is not necessarily that's great for if people are focused on their own self and developing themselves, but in the world that could be big world activations and things.
Jupiter feels more like a dark side of the soul, dark night of the soul. Mars feels more we're getting things going somewhere. So
interesting. So it's almost like we're removing parts from that have kept us stuck or limited.
Yeah, it feels like you think Jupiter would be more of the lighter, but it feels like it's more of the darker with the inner work, which is actually a lighter way to think about it, but
because it's expanding from the inside.
Yeah.
Like it also like we're going into the sign of Aries, like it's like so you see more of the self. There's a bigger shadow exposed.
Yeah, I would say the shadow of the self definitely these next couple of months for sure. This month for sure, next couple of months definitely. No matter what happens with the world,
plenty to process.
The world's gonna help with that.
You do a great job. I see you show up. You're very consistent, and so I know that your audience very grateful and appreciate you. I know that your contributions are well received.
Yeah, it's just the nightly channelings, nightly or weekly webinars. Yeah, it's a lot.
And do you do schools still?
I do work. I have a part-time job that I'm still. That timeline hasn't broke free just yet. So I'm waiting for it to hit the exit, but still holding on. So
it's like we're DJs spinning different records at the same time, right?
It feels that way. Yeah. Well, the boss, is like living out his prime years of I'm just gonna live to 90 or what? So it's like he's going to 80. I think he's almost 80 right now. So it's like,
So I just recently had a Mars return cycle, which is a 2-year cycle. And in that cycle, it started in the spring of 2020, and I was still living in the UK. Since then, I come to Mexico. I pretty much live here now, and like I teach astrology workshops and all kinds of cool experiences. So now I've just started a whole new 2-year cycle. As well as that, 12 years ago, I started the astrology on my Jupiter return in 2010. And I didn't know I was going to start a YouTube channel the year after in 2011. And then it's come around and it really provides me for my self-investment. So now I just started a whole new 12-year cycle. I'd love to ask you, what you think and fathom are the potentials of my farthest reach of expansion on my next 2-year and 12-year hero's journey?
Well, I feel like, yeah, YouTube will continue to grow, probably slowly, because there's something about that you're trying to figure out, or you want to get too ahead of yourself, but it has a steady stream. It'll probably have an explosion of growth, but it'll happen eventually when the time is right. Right now, because I think you're working on other stuff right now, so at least that's what I'm feeling. So you want to focus on that. It's not so much the YouTube channel so much. I mean, it's part of it, but it's not your main focus, it feels like.
There's
So,
multiple things going on. I feel like
yeah.
raising a few things up.
Yeah, do those. Yeah, do those, and the YouTube will find its way. Yeah, it's definitely part of your soul growth for sure. Well, it's you connecting to the stars, as you can see. So understand the stars, understand how they're speaking to you and everything, which is good.
Yeah, and I feel like obviously the past 12 years is I used the YouTube as a training wheel experience, and I've become masterful with my astrology. So I'm not practicing that anymore. Now I'm going to be building astrology and yoga schools, and learning to garden and write music and write books about astrology and spirituality to share them on more platforms that are offering greater longevity, media which will be more timeless.
What about like alternative astrology? I'm not sure if that's even a term, like different points of view where it's not the mainstream. Or...
Oh, I love interviewing various different types of astrologers, like the same playlist that this video review when our interviews have gone on. So there's like the ancient Babylonian astrology, Chinese astrology, Vedic astrology, but also I recently had my eye on this lady which I was going to interview, and she's done some videos about exoplanets, which is really like of Chiron, Pluto, and these centaurs, but they're actually naming other ones which are coming into the consciousness and developing the mythos for them. And eventually, our children's children, I feel their astrology of their days, they're going to be discovering each of us and our mythologies and basing the astrology of how we lived.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, it will be the ancient ones. It's like the ancient YouTube when they're talking to the refrigerator and it has a TV screen on it or whatever.
The origins.
Yeah, just yeah, I do feel like the new generations we're making it easier for them. Not that it'd be too easy, but it'd be easier than what we're going through.
So I'm obviously an astrologer, and human design is something I'm not really that familiar with, but I do know a little bit. And they have their prophecy, and that is that in 2027, a new type of baby is being born, and that they're called the raves. And it's like they've got a different genealogy, a bit like autism in a sense. There's the analogy. They could be profoundly more adept to a different frequency. And the way that they function is that they kind of congregate in amoebas. Like, so they work together in trios or quads and things like this. And that's how they communicate, in a sense, maybe telepathically. Obviously, they say, well, we don't know how it's going to look. We don't know if it's telepathy or like the Matrix or something like this. Or so us as parents of these children, like hybrid children parents, we're kind of being like very startled by this. Like if our parents are aliens, they must have felt the same way when they had us as alienated beings and spiritual beings, but we're going to feel that this is throwing us quite a level. Really, I wondered what you could feel into with regards to that.
There's a possibility. I mean, it's a theory. It's really hard to say. I mean, I do see like there will be, obviously this is kind of jumping the gun about the future. There's a possibility of us having a future where a lot of things currently get reset, where we kind of jump into the future, where things are a little bit more futuristic here. Like kind of like the Tartarians get forgotten. A lot of like where we're living possibly will be scrambled up, won't be clear. All of a sudden will be a little bit, probably people will walk around with implants, not everybody, but some people will.
Oh, it won't be long until people start getting, like a lot of people will be getting clued into the metaverse and having the connection to their body, won't they?
Yeah.
In the sense that Resident Evil, the computer game, very old, came out in the mid-90s, is a documentary of the times which we're moving through and into, right?
Yeah, it's it's hard to say. I mean, obviously, with the whole situation we had recently, many were indoctrinated into that without any question. To say, "Oh yeah, sure, just put whatever you want into me, go for it." Without realizing the ramifications of it. I feel like that's the reason why U.S. is going through that abortion situation too, is to get the birth rate up. Is my feeling on it. Could be wrong, but
Yeah, as well, I feel like even the moral debate of it could be the types of things which would cause a civil war. And the pushing of that type of energy is also the backset scene of the zombie Resident Evil situation.
Yeah.
It's also the Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon, the original situation where they were the renegades who were living the hippie alternative community on the outside, but Sonic is Robin Hood. No different than he would go into the city, make some money with the oligarchs and the royals, and then he'd come back out and share it with all of the other people who were more needy.
Well, the metaverse, I tell you, if we do have like a civil war here, like video games, people go to video games. It's pretty much kind of like the metaverse, technically. It's like the old version of it, I guess. Because people are depressed, they don't know what to do with themselves. And the metaverse, if it's advanced enough, it'll replace video games. And I mean, we're pretty much living in a metaverse, technically. Our soul incarnates into an avatar. So, it's just a metaverse within a metaverse. That's all. So
we are a much more cheery kind of cartoon avatar, which is the human body. And the relationship between our cartoon avatar and the daemon inside our heads, the superior brachium, which is part of our anatomy, the Lord of Darkness. It's a bit like what we see in a lot of these medias going again. So that Ren and Stimpy or Pinky and the Brain.
Yeah.
Or even in wrestling, like they've got Edge and Christian. It's all like David and Goliath. It's the same everywhere.
Yeah, we're kind of, they say history repeats itself because we haven't learned from the last time. So it's like, and then again, we're here to redo a cop, do the same thing over and over again to experience it more in a modern time. So, we're still, but eventually we will go more galactic. I mean, we're kind of doing that now.
The funny thing is, like, so this Lord of Darkness, if we're choosing leaders, Daemon's not impressed by choosing leaders. Leaders, that's going to choke. You put yourself on a lead, you're being treated like a bitch.
Yeah, it's happening right now.
And so that's like the dog star. And so what we're learning is to heal that temperament and to lead ourselves within our own sovereignty.
Well, yeah. So we don't have to go through these lessons again over and over again. So you can get out, like sleep and get up and go do what you want instead of having to, do all these other things. Yeah, and that's what we're here to keep evolving, but evolve in a way that obviously, so I don't have to destroy the future, like you were saying earlier. The idea is to make it a better future. So
because stepping into that energy for 24 hours a day will make you a megalomaniac just a quick snap. So we must learn the patience, the humble. Like this is why we have the traditions of the Buddha, and like as we were saying, we feel like we're devoting ourselves to being messengers, because that brings us into a more consistent temperament. And it's about knowing your superhero depth and power, but also recognizing the emotions and the grief and sharing the transmutation process, alchemizing the gold of the soul.
Well, a lot of, as we spoke earlier about, a lot of people that are evolving, some of them are a little bit irritated being a human because all the emotions, all the stuff. But when you learn how to live with it or love it the best of your ability, that is a form of graduation. So you wonder what your test is. It's like if you don't like being human, your test is, liking it more, at least making it work for you in some ways. Yeah, something like that.
That this whole phrase, like you want to get out, so you've got to get in, truly counts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But the irony is that when you finally get in enough that you're able to get out, you recognize that the only bit that's any worth a dime is the fact that you get to help other people by getting more into it. stuck in the physical, being a messenger, being a corporation, being a merchandiser, being a wheeler dealer, whatever it is that you do, that's where the fun and action is.
It's putting your energy to it. Yeah, you can have your corporation, but you can make it fun. Yeah, like you were saying, you do merchandise it, make it fun, whatever it might be. Yeah, that's the idea.
Even though it's like the Jupiterian nature of it being jovial, because whatever impacts on it and is feeling on the inside in the darkness, it allows it to broaden its experience of growth and its capacity to entertain.
It's just, like I said, a lot of people are, I mean, it comes back to some of the Gnostic energies of, if you're familiar with that, basically energy doesn't really like being physical. A lot of energy beings, like people that are awakening or awakened to spiritual growth, I'm just look at being humans like, this is like the worst thing ever happened to me. And that's why you're in this body, is you're in it for a reason to, find some kind of peace with it.
Yeah, I mean, that's my biggest mission, is to try and break this spell of frustration and to see the beauty and charm in becoming the lover of our own narration. Because this is like building rapport with our own darkness and building rapport with our own sorrow allows us to have a finer temperament, and so that we can access the enjoyment as well as witness. Because the Daemon, the Prince Superior Brachim, the Lord of Darkness, the prisoner of war, is actually being saved by witnessing what we choose. We're in control as the choice maker. Beyond that, but if we can have a relationship with ourselves, darkness, instead of just referring it to it like that.
I mean, I don't talk about demonic energies too much, but not publicly, but I do bring it up every now and then privately, but it's, that will help us move forward for sure. Not being afraid of demonic energy.
It's like, that's how the vehicle works. That's how the spirit is navigated by the jockey of the soul.
You can go into heaven and be okay, and go into hell and be okay. You can just go into hell and have a beer or whatever, talk to a demonic energy and not get possessed by it.
And as you say, like, if you cycle enough with a certain energy or sustainability, all stars will have their time rising and falling from grace. It's just what we've chosen. When we set ourselves in here, we can't miss it. We'll jump aboard. That's the way I feel about it, because the catalysts always reassure us. They always allow us to moor our relationship back to the self, and that's a massive process of love. I feel like only ignorance teaches us more love eventually, through the division of our consciousness.
But even those that are very earthbound, physical, and don't really believe in the spiritual, there has to be we come to a middle with each other. We're not fearing each other, because there is a divide there right now.
It's like we hold different keys as well. So like the exchange is a bit like when you've got Pokemon cards, right, or something like that, and it's like, I really need your card to complete the set, but like, we've got to trade.
That's why. And those that are very physically bound, they go to spirituality, but when they talk about any of this, it's like, oh, it's too much. Especially when you talk about demonic realms, like, good luck with that. I guess it all depends on the person, though. So.
Well, this is like the richest conversation of metaphysics that we get to explore, because I feel like the route is always the way.
Exactly.
So thank you so much for sharing today, because it's been very profound, and I feel like it's given the opportunity to people watching to really discover that we are the authority in choosing how to explore and navigate by the frequency which we obtain, how we anchor our story, how we choose to speak to ourselves. And in doing that, we can explore that we are channels, we are receptive electromagnetic beings, and we can explore the whole of reality and creation step by step as we learn through the nursery school.
Definitely. Thanks for having me on. Thanks
for where can people find your work? I will link it in the description box below. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with you, but if anybody's new,
is ivanteller.com or Ivan Teller on on YouTube. So yeah, just search Ivan Tor, and that's really hard to find. So it's somebody who looks like me. So yeah, it's not on my website, but yeah, ivantor.com. It's free. That's me basically. So
I love the topics that you discuss. They go far and wide, broader than I can on many things. Exciting. Everybody check it out if you're unfamiliar. If you're watching this on Ivan's channel or somewhere else, then my name's Philip. I'm an astrologer. Unifying Perspectives is where you can find me on YouTube. And so grateful for the connection.
Yeah, thank you. Yep. All right. Yeah. Talk again. So.